It's about the journey, not the destination. Reality is better than imagination. When I feel free, free to be me. When I feel free, free to be me.
Welcome, everybody, to Travel Your Heart, a podcast where two gay grandpas explore life's travels together. Hi, everybody. It's Grandpa Bobby.
Grandpa Scott.
And welcome to Travel Your Heart, podcast from two gay grandpas, where we talk about our travels around the world and also our travels through life.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Grandpa.
Good to see you again, Grandpa.
So what are we doing here today?
Well, today's episode is going to be all about unexpected travel experiences.
Ooh, sounds mysterious.
Could be.
Now, are these good experiences or bad experiences?
We're all going to have to see.
Okay, well, when you told me this topic, I thought up of three different ones that I thought we'd speak about. So what about you?
I came up with 20 and narrowed them down to 3.
Okay, good. Well, why don't I go first?
Why not?
Okay, so this first experience I wanted to relate is called Lost in Translation, or more to the point, it's more about making the most of when you get lost. Because, you know, when we travel, although it might look really perfect and well planned on our videos, it doesn't always turn out that way.
Really?
Yeah, we've gotten lost a number of times, some memorably so. But the one I'm thinking of in particular was, I don't know if you recall, this was back when, about mid-90s, and we were traveling through Tuscany, once again on another driving trek, Grandpa Scott driving and me with my maps, because remember, at this time, this was before they had GPS. It's so much easier now to just plug and you go. But back then, we just had maps, and of course, the maps are all in Italian. So I was having a bit of complication, and I could have sworn that this little country road we were taking was going to join to the highway. Yeah. But instead, it went under the highway, and we got completely turned around and lost. So, you know, instead of getting upset, we said, okay, let's just regroup. We'll stop over in the next village and we'll ask for directions. Mm-hmm. And gosh, you know, after all these years, I can't remember what that little town was. But I remember it was magical. We got out and suddenly we found ourselves in the middle of a medieval festival.
I remember.
They had the costumes and the banners. And now I don't know if any of you remember the movie Under the Tuscan Sun, when they go to Siena and they're at the Palio and they throw the flags up in the air and the men catch them and toss them. They were doing all that with drums and music and food, and it was just this marvelous festival.
Yeah. You know what I remember most from that now?
What?
I remember watching all the costumed characters come by, and the costume that caught my eye, the medieval costume that caught my eye, was the group, the drummers and the flaggers that were in pink and black. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, that's the Good and Plenty group.
Good. So I always related it to food, huh?
True.
So I guess the thing I took away from that was sometimes things don't turn out always the way you intend, but they can be for the better. Because, you know, I can't remember anything else we did that day. You know, I can't remember the thing we were going to go see, but I remember the mistake and the great memory that came from them. So, you know, don't always look on getting lost as something bad. It's just an opportunity to see something new.
An unplanned adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what are one of yours?
Oh, you know, I think the one that I'm going to start off with, we're in Croatia.
Love it well.
And we had arrived in Rovine. Mm-hmm. And at the time, there wasn't like Airbnbs or motels. Croatia did not have a lot of hotels. And it was pre-Game of Thrones, all right? Before Croatia had really been discovered.
Popular, right?
And I remember we had arranged to stay in this studio apartment that this gentleman was renting out, our host. Mm-hmm. And so when we showed up, we had to meet him at the tourist center in Rovine. And there they take your name, they log you in, they know where you're staying, they know who your host is. And then when you're done with that paperwork, the host walks you to your place that you're going to stay. And it was a really charming place.
It was a beautiful little,
yeah.
it's a great little seaside. For those of you who might not know it, Rovine is a beautiful little seaside town.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
gorgeous place.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, please do. Anyhow, we were going to go with our host. He asked us to go to his workshop because he did pottery.
Oh, that's right. He was a really talented artist.
Talented, a lot of beautiful pottery. But along the way, somehow I lost my wallet.
Yeah.
Don't know how.
Didn't know it at the time.
No one, because it was deep in cargo pant.
I'll never know to this day how you did lose
We'll
it.
never know. And I remember that we freaked because we discovered it the next day because we were going to go out for breakfast, and I always pat down to make sure, have everything in place. And there was no wallet. So you and I got really freaky.
Yep.
Luckily, we always make copies of the front and backs of our charge cards in case something like this happens.
And that's a little tip to share with our listeners. Always make a copy of all of your important documents in case
Just in
someone loses their
case.
wallet.
So there we are. We're calling the charge card companies and canceling the charge cards. And I remember there was like 4 cards in there. There was like $600 in
Yeah,
euro.
we had just gone to the bank.
Had gone to the bank. And so, we were just, when we were telling we're not going to let this run it. We'll take care of business. It's not going to run our trip. And right after we did that, a half hour later, we get a phone call from our host. And our host says, Mr. Reinhardt, did you lose any important documents? And I go, no documents, but I lost my wallet. And I remember he said, meet me at the tourist center or the tourist board, maybe is what it was. So we walked over and we walked in and they had our wallet. And the gentleman at the tourist board, he gave it back to us. Our host was there also and gave it back to us. I opened it up. He said, please check. Every charge card was in there. All 600 euros was in there. Driver's license, nothing had been taken. And I just was like so amazed. And I said, thank you so much.
So relieved.
Well, because there are places that you could have lost it that you might have got the wallet back, but cards and money would be
If
gone.
that.
And I guess the guy knew that's what I was thinking, because both the host and the tourist center gentleman said no one in this city would have kept them. And I just remember thinking how absolutely wonderful it just gave you such a really great feeling about people.
Reassured your faith in humanity.
Humanity, absolutely. But I remember that very clearly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an experience where something really bad turned out to be something so positive, and so it really made our day to think that people would be so nice and so kind, and also remind you to take better care of putting your wallet away.
Well, it was in deep cargo
I know,
pocket
never
with
to this
with
day.
the button over.
Yeah.
I don't know how it fell out.
Well, I'm glad it turned out for the better.
Yes, because you would have had to buy everything.
Oh, I know. So my next one is basically look beyond the surface. Now, when you go to any monument or you go to see a famous painting or a place that you've seen a million pictures of, you think it's going to be one thing, but sometimes it turns out differently.
Very much so.
And the time I'm remembering is yet another driving trip. And this time we were driving through France and we had left Paris and we went into the countryside. And the first area we visited was Normandy. And we went to the beaches of Normandy. Now, as some of you may remember in our first episode, I related the story about my dad who landed on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day in 1944. And how I knew nothing about his experiences there because soldiers didn't typically talk to their family, especially their young kids, after the war. But I was curious, so I wanted to go there and experience it. And so I remember walking down there, walking along the beaches. They're beautiful beaches, stretches for miles, gorgeous sand and water. And then every so often you see the relics or the remnants of the works that they did to bring the boats and the ships ashore. And it was very moving.
Yeah.
And it was so moving that I remember I went to the car and I got a plastic bag and I just took up some handfuls of sand because I just felt close to my dad, and I really wanted to bring back some of that and share that. So I brought back this sand, and I put them in little vials, and I gave them to each of my sisters and brother and my mom, so that we each have a little part of that experience, because I can't imagine what it must have been like for him and for a lot of those young men to be just landing on the beaches that morning in the fear and the unknown.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what I remember from watching you when you were there doing the sand? I remember I was standing up kind of a little back because I wanted to give you that private time. But I was watching you do that, thinking about that, and I just started having tears run down my eyes.
It was very moving.
It was so emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went up the cliff because the beaches are low, and then you go up the cliff, and they have the cemetery there. And the cemetery is beautiful. It's very well kept. It's very tranquil, very peaceful. And I remember very clearly this one man was lowering the American flag, and he folded it in the trifold, and he had it close to his heart. And I was just so struck by the reverence and how much the French people cared. And so even though it was the American cemetery, it didn't matter. They were honoring the sacrifice of all these young men.
Yeah. And we learned about how the school kids, even to this day, will take flowers, and they have to do it by sections because
it's a huge
it was a huge cemetery. But these young school kids will take the flowers and they'll put them on graves, and then the next cycle they'll do it on another set of graves. And a lot of people in the United States needs to know that.
Yeah.
They need to know that. It was a very emotional experience.
So I guess the thing I wanted to relate was, so many times there's a story, there's more depth behind a monument that you have seen pictures of a million times. You just have to open your heart and look for those hidden stories behind it.
Yeah.
So how about something a little lighter?
Okay, well, how about food?
Okay, always goes back to food.
Back to food. Italy.
Yep.
Picture this.
Yeah, I remember it well.
Cinque Terres.
Yeah, Cinque Terre, beautiful place.
Beautiful.
National
City
park.
Vernazza.
Lovely city, yep.
We're eating al fresco, looking at the water.
As one does.
As one does. And I'm not big on seafood,
Oh,
you know
please.
that? Okay, I think you know where this is going,
that.
right?
Yes.
But there was, it's Vernazza on the go, so you eat a lot of seafood.
Very like seafood.
And I remember seeing an order that had pancetta. And anyone that knows me knows I love my bacon.
Bacon,
okay?
any form, any
And
country.
Any country, in Italy, it's pancetta. And so I ordered it, the pasta dish that it was in, and it turned out to be squid ink pasta. So here I am, my first time, and I'm having this black pasta, black sauce with these chunks of pancetta in it. I was a little leery at first, folks.
Well,
very leery.
You could not eat it.
I wasn't sending it back. No.
It would have been insulting.
It would have been insulting. I ate it and loved it. It was one of the most scrumptious, yummy things I've ever eaten.
And so hard to find here in the States.
And I tried to make it.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, it's not the same.
I think it's being on the coast in Italy that kind of changes the flavor profile.
So the walk away from that is, don't be afraid to try some new food.
Well, that reminds me also when, I don't know if it's the same trip or another one, we were in that little town way up in Italy, and we stopped and no one spoke English. All the menus were Italian, and you ended up eating, what was it called?
I just pointed to something that because I know the term for pasta. Okay. So I pointed at something and it came back to me, and it was
alici.
Anchovies. So here we go. Anchovies. It also was scrumptious
Something
and
you
yummy.
Never would have tried.
No, because I'm so used to the anchovies that we get here in the States that my dad had as a miner, that would be in his coal mining lunch bucket. And they were always so salty. And these weren't. These were so tasty. And
so what you're saying is you like exotic seafood or expensive seafood?
Both.
Great.
Yeah, but they did try something new. What's the worst that could happen?
Exactly.
You don't order it again.
Just try it again. What the heck?
Absolutely.
So for my last episode, I call this one a play on my own personality and how I think I've grown a little over time. You see, for those who may not know me, I'm a little bit of a planner. I like putting things in boxes and having things arranged, and you go from one place to another or one thing to another.
You are a clam.
No, but I've learned over the years to open myself. So
You have.
once again, we're on yet another driving trip.
We are road trippers.
Yeah, I guess
We're
we are.
dedicated road trippers.
So we were traveling from Venice,
Yeah.
and we were going to Croatia. A lot of good times in Croatia.
Croatia.
And we had 2 days, and we had planned to go somewhere else in Italy. And then we looked at the map, and I'm sure a lot of people have experienced this. When you look at a map of Europe, the countries are very close together. Now, when you travel across the United States, you could go for a day or two and not cross a state. But in Italy and Croatia, and so you could go from country to country within a few hours. And so we looked at this map, and we saw that the country of Slovenia was located right above Croatia.
Oh, hot skipping
How
a
convenient.
hot
We'd
skipping
never
a
been to
jump.
Slovenia, and we always like to add to our bucket list of countries, add to our total.
You know how I hate that term.
I know. So we saw the town of Ljubljana.
Oh.
Now, Ljubljana is the capital of Slovenia. So I remember we just said, well,
Let's go.
I was like, well, we don't have reservations. We don't know how to go. So we literally just pulled out the map, pointed the car in the direction, and we went to Ljubljana.
I think mostly as I get in the car, we're going.
Yeah, exactly. And we had the time of our life. Let me tell you, Ljubljana, you've got to go, is this beautiful little town. Now, it was part of a communist country. It was not decimated during World War II. And really, it didn't have a lot of progress. They didn't rip down a lot of the beautiful old buildings.
Build those communist era
Yeah, blocks.
block buildings.
And it's also a college town. So there's a lot of life. It's along a river, and they have a lot. Remember those beautiful bridges? They have
Beautiful Baroque architecture.
and they have the bridges that had the locks on them, and it was just beautiful. And we found a hotel there, and we stayed for 2 nights,
Yeah.
and we had the time of our life. Just because it was unexpected and real travel bargain too. It was really inexpensive.
Truly.
So I guess the thing I have learned is there's times when you have to plan, but there's times when you can just be spontaneous and just go with the flow.
Yeah, absolutely. Travel your heart.
Exactly. So you got another one for us?
Oh, let me pull it out of my hat.
Well, at least pull out your hat.
Picture this, Croatia.
Oh, Croatia again.
Dubrovnik.
Oh yeah.
Dubrovnik this time, right?
Amazing city.
And
Pre-Game of Thrones.
yes, and pre us doing any kind of social media.
Yep.
Basically, I was traveling with the camera because I loved photography. But I remember we were walking around Dubrovnik, snapping off some shots, and we saw this group of women, about 16 women, and they all had ice cream cones. And they are sitting on a beautiful stone step in front of.
Is this another food
church.
story?
Yeah, it's leading to food, ice cream. But they were having a grand time. And I wanted to take their photo. And you said you should really ask.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're right.
Yeah, you need to ask people's
I
permission.
went up and I said, do you mind? I'm trying, blah, 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 blah. And they said, no, go ahead. And so I did about 12 different shots. And I'm so glad I have them. And then we started talking to them. And I said, well, how you all eating ice cream? Are you all from Dubrovnik? And oh, no. You know, it turned out that you had women from Turkey, from Greece, from Bosnia Herzegovina, from all over the area. And these women got together once a year and they had this little ice cream cone club, and they would pick a city and they went to it and they would have ice cream. And there was no talk of politics. There was no talk about religion. It was just about these 16 women getting together as friends and having a wonderful time in a city.
Yeah.
And I remember
wonderful.
my heart just went, oh my God, this is wonderful. What a wonderful story.
And the ice cream wasn't too bad
The
either.
ice cream was really good too. So but I think the pivotal point of the story is
I see.
the 16 women getting together from these different countries, different faiths, different backgrounds, different ages. And that that memory stays with me so much, Bobby. It
Just
stays
open
with
your
me so
heart
much.
to the experiences of people and meeting one another and finding the commonality rather than the differences.
And that kind of goes to the whole purpose of our podcast, talking about, our travel abroad and all that, but also those travel through life moments like this that you get.
Things that change you. And, well, the biggest souvenir you can bring back from any travel, be it local, be it abroad, are the memories.
Yeah.
And sometimes those memories come from unexpected circumstances or consequences, and you keep them in your heart. So that's why we always say, travel your heart. You keep open to these reflections. And
So
it just,
let me ask you a question.
yeah.
What do you think about this episode?
I think it's really, for me, what's really wonderful is that it brought back a lot of memories. Just thinking about some things to speak about. And I was like, oh, yeah, remember that time. I remember. And like I said, reflecting on the memories are some of the greatest treasures and greatest souvenirs you can bring back.
Absolutely. I agree with you totally, Grandpa.
So for our next episode, what do you think we should go into?
Well, I think because we touched upon a few little travel tips in this, that we should maybe explore travel tips a little bit more, because we have a lot of people that have asked us in the comments and all that. So let's focus a little bit on travel tips, because we are really big on traveling light. So let's do that next time.
Yeah, talk about, before you go, when you go, how to go. Just some things we've learned. Like we said, we do make our mistakes and learn from them. And, hopefully you can learn from them too.
Yeah.
So until next time, we invite you to join our podcast, let your friends know. And also, if you like our videos and would like to see more of our travel videos, we invite you to join our YouTube channel, Two Gay Grandpas Travel. We'd love you to subscribe, hit the like button.
Be sure to subscribe to our podcast.
As well, yep.
Absolutely.
And definitely help us grow our channel and this channel as well. So until next time, I think we're going to say goodbye. And always remember, whenever you travel your heart.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, folks.